So I am Jenna Snyder. I'm the Director of Guidance Counseling, and I counsel upper school students. And we also have with us Dr. Lana Sneer, who's at our South Campus and handles our middle school and lower school students. We got together and came up with C's that we feel are important for you to consider as you're parenting during this time. We know it's definitely challenging. And we just, maybe these tips will help a little bit as you work through this with your families. So our first C is to control your own anxiety, which can be easier said than done right now, we realize. But it's just important to remember that your children really do pick up on your emotions, and they mirror your emotions a lot of times. So if you're feeling anxious, they're likely feeling anxious as well. So how do we control our own anxiety right now? There are several ways. One way to start would just be setting up some boundaries in your home as to what you're allowing to be filtered into your home. For example, if you are tempted, like many of us, to keep the news on the TV all, round the clock, 24/7, you might reconsider that and think about cutting back and just watching the news once a day, kind of getting your updates that way. That low level of news playing in the background really does get into the hearts and souls of your children, and actually you too. So it's a healthier thing to filter out some of that. Maybe instead play some praise music and anti-anxiety kind of Christian playlists that are out there on Google that you can find, and have that running through your home so that the Lord and the Holy Spirit can really just bring a calm and a sense of peace. Another way to control our own anxiety is to practice some really good self-care right now. And I know that is sometimes contrary to what we do as parents. We're taking care of everybody else, but it is not selfish to practice self-care, and you need it now more than ever. So that could look like taking breaks, just stopping what you're doing in the middle of your day, sitting on the back porch for 5-10 minutes, regrouping so you can come back better for your kids and your family, less anxious. Definitely getting outside, helpful to get beyond your four walls. And exercising, absolutely. I know we have to kind of be creative right now, and our gyms are closed, and but we can do it. I saw on the Today Show a guy who actually ran a marathon in his backyard that was about this big, and just back and forth, and gave the proceeds to charity. So that was a pretty cool thing to see. But exercise is very important for our mental health. So be sure you're getting your exercise. I urge you to start your day every day, and we should do this anyway, but just 30 minutes before the rest of your family has gotten up and is moving about, and spend time with the Lord in prayer and reading His Word to really set your mind straight and get some of the anxiety that can creep in out, and to be ready and good for your kids. There are apps out there that help with anxiety, and one that's pretty good is called Calm, C-A-L-M. It's not a Christian-based app, but there are some helpful resources on there. There's some good deep breathing practices and skills on there, and that can be super important at this time. So glean from that what you think is appropriate and good for your family, but there's certainly lots and lots of self-care resources. And I think just all in all, as far as anxiety goes, it's so important to remember what an opportunity we have right now, Legacy family. More than ever, your children are looking to see how you're responding. So please just realize that this is a moment they'll remember for the rest of their lives, and what a great chance to show and demonstrate faith in our Lord when humanly we can't make sense of things. Just to live like we believe He's in control, and that He's at work, and they'll see that, and that will be so meaningful to them. Ann Blackburn, one of our art teachers, had something on Schoology I loved, and I shared it with Eagle Mamas yesterday, but she was walking her neighborhood, as some of us have done, and she saw chalked on the sidewalk something super powerful, and it said, "Anxiety asks, what if?" but faith declares, even if. I just thought that was so amazing and such a good thought. Anxiety is asking, what if this goes on for months and months? What if, God forbid, someone in my family gets it? What if I lose my job and financially I'm left struggling? What if, we could go on, and our minds can get away from us like that. But faith declares, even if. So even if this goes on for months, God will sustain us. He will get us through it and make us stronger. And even if someone we love gets it, we were surrounded by family and friends, and God's still there. And even if your job goes south and you lose it, and God's going to provide, and he's not going anywhere. So just remember that. I want to be an even if home. I hope I'm portraying that to my family, and I pray that for you as well. So the second C, the first C, control your anxiety, and the second C is to communicate. So important right now to communicate with your kids. And we're asking them a lot. We're asking, have you finished your seesaw lesson? Have you eaten breakfast? And have you gone to bed at a good time this week? But are we sitting down and asking them, how are you feeling about all of this? I mean, that's convicting. Have we really taken the time to do that? They need to voice their feelings. And then as they talk, do we instantly try to fix it? Or do we validate their feelings? And do we say, I understand how you might be fearful, and let's talk about what that feels like to you. That's super important for them to get that out there. So they're going to likely ask you questions too. And as they do, just be honest in your answers and really filter through what might be age appropriate for them to hear. You're certainly going to talk to your kindergartner different than your high schooler about this. And just trust the Lord to lead you in those conversations, but good, honest communication. You don't need to give them any more than they're asking for, but just good, honest answers. And then don't forget to highlight the positive. Talk to them about how we have a strong healthcare system with some really smart people who are working on vaccines all the time. And sometimes that part of the news gets lost in it all. So remember to highlight that. Really what they want to know is, am I going to be okay? And are the people I love going to be okay? So if you can assure them on those two fronts, and that communication might look like reaching out to family and friends, FaceTime grandma and grandpa. I just taught my 89-year-old mom how to FaceTime, and she is loving that. It's been so beneficial on many fronts. So communicate regularly with the people they love so they can see and know that these people are fine, and their smiling faces are just like they've always been, and that'll give them a lot of reassurance. And this communication, lastly, needs to be ongoing. It's not a one and done thing. You can't just have that check-in and then move on. You really need to regularly check in with them so that you know where they're at with all of this. And that is just a gift you can give them as we walk through this together. So our first two C's are to control your own anxiety and to communicate. And now I'm going to hand this to Lana, Dr. Lana Sneer, who's going to talk through our second two C's.
Thanks, Jenna. This truly is unprecedented time, and I and Jenna and myself have both just been amazed at how God has stretched us and how much we have learned through this. So we are sharing with you in the trenches, and I'm going to add some additional tips to the ones that Jenna gave you. And these are tips that are really coming out of conversations that I have had with the kids over the last couple of weeks. We are regularly in contact with your kids, and kids are calling in, and we're doing some video chats, and we're finding kids that are struggling with stress and anxiety and the feeling of being isolated and alone. And through those conversations, I've just come up with some additional tips that have helped the kids kind of maneuver through that, and also have been helpful for me, and I hope will be helpful in your own family. And those are kind of broken into three areas. One is consistency, sticking with the C plan, and connection, and then cultivating hope in your home. When I talk to the kids, we have actually been kind of comparing our situation to Noah and Noah's journey on the ark. And while it's not exactly the same as what Noah was going through, there are actually an awful lot of parallels, and that we are like Noah, shut in while outside there is a storm a brewing. And so we are isolated more than we have ever been before. But I love to remind the kids and to shift their focus from that storm that's brewing and that sense of isolation to the knowledge that God closed that door, God provided, so we are provided for, we are safe, and just as Noah was promised a future, so are we. And so just being able to compare where we are with where Noah was is helpful. The kids like to be able to grab hold of a Bible story and a Bible example, and so that's been helpful. But so then from there we begin to talk with the kids about, okay, just as let's think about Noah on the ark. This was unprecedented for him. He had never had to take care of a snake or a giraffe or a rhinoceros. So he had to pull from some resources that he didn't ever have before. And the first thing that I think Noah had to do was he had to have a consistent schedule. And while we're isolated and we're in our homes, it is more important than ever that our kids have a consistent schedule. That's what they thrive on. That's what they're used to. You can stop any kid in the hallways at the lower school and I can say, what time's your lunch? And they can spit it out to me, 11:10, 12:22. So they know what their day is going to look like every single day. And it's important that we keep that going on in their lives now. And so I encourage you to sit down with your kids if you haven't already, and I'm talking all the young all the way to seniors, and lay out a schedule with them. Let them have input into that. When are they going to have their brain breaks? What time are they going to have lunch? Making sure they're up every day at close to the same time. Making sure they're getting exercise factored into their schedule so that they know that it's going to be consistent across their days. And that brings a whole lot of security to our kids. The second C is connection. And if we go back and think about Noah, he lost his connections with the world and was trapped with his family. And there we go. That is us too. And I don't think that's by coincidence. I think that is by divine intervention in some sense, because I think there's no greater relationship than the families that we have. And I think God is bringing us back to that simpler time. And our kids, they, while they have lost their connection with a lot of their friends and their teachers and their neighbors and their church groups, they haven't lost their connection with their families. But we have to, as families, be very intentional about cultivating those connections. And so there are some things that you can do that will just deepen the connections that you have in your home. I know a lot of you are doing these things, and I'd love for y'all to share ideas with me and with each other. But starting new family traditions, bringing back dinner time. A lot of us have let dinner time go because we're running to sports activities and after school things, but bringing back family dinner times and family game nights. I started thinking about journaling. I loved to journal with my kids when they were growing up, and I thought, well, what a wonderful opportunity. And Anne Frank journaled when she was isolated. So even having a coronavirus journal that the kids can write in and what they're feeling and the struggles that they're having is a great outlet for them emotionally, and just something great to share later. But working together just to build the connection with your family, but then also building the connection in your community, being intentional. I love Jenna's talking about, chalk the walk, and on Legacy's distant learning site, they have posted even some forms that you can print out as a family and drop on your neighbor's porch to let them know that you are where you live and that you are making yourself available to help them and to reach out to them and to be there for them. And our kids love to do this. Kids of all ages love to do this. So connecting back with your neighbors, and again, FaceTiming with the extended family is critical. I was reading something today that the kids are actually putting their phones down more during this than they ever have before. And so I think part of that has become that they're learning that they are ready for rich relationships. And so we have an opportunity as families to show them the difference between the relationships that they've had via social media and the relationships that they can have. And I think it's an incredible opportunity as families. And most importantly, the connection that they have with the Lord. We need to be intentional about helping them cultivate that with our daily devotional time and our daily prayer time. And also, calling our kids to be accountable to having a daily quiet time with the Lord so that they can build that relationship. And then my last C is cultivate hope. And I think this was probably one of the most important things for Noah on that ark. He had the benefit of knowing that, God was going to bring him through. And we can have that benefit too, but our kids don't necessarily see that. And so we have to cultivate an environment that encourages them to see the future. And part of that is focusing on the future. I'm sure Noah and them talked about what was the land going to look like and what kind of house were they going to build. And so it's a great time for us to be talking about what restaurant are we going to go to when they finally open up back up, and what friend do we want to go see, and oh my gosh, what movie is going to be out, and talking about the fun things that we can do and getting things on our calendar in the future so that the kids can begin to look ahead and see that we are not here in this place forever, and that the future is bright. Keeping a list of gratitudes in your home cultivates hope. I just like to, slap a piece of butcher paper on your wall, and it's great for gratitudes and prayer requests and God sightings at your family dinners, having the kids share, where did you see God today, individually, in our family, or even globally. I mean, God has shown up more these past few weeks for our families and kids than probably in a long, long time. At least he slowed us down so we can see it. So let's help them to see it so that they don't miss those opportunities to see how real he really is. Just as Jenna said, fill your home with love. Older kids love The Office, and I stumbled across a site today from John Krasinski, and it's just called Some Good News with John Krasinski. And he just gets on there and talks, and he shows video clips of people just doing wonderful things and reconnecting. So your older kids will love that. So my C's are consistency with the schedule, connection, rich connections, and cultivate hope in your family. Now, just to wrap up, it's not lost on me that we can do all the right things, and we are striving to do all the right things, and our babies will still struggle at times. There'll still be anxiety, there'll still be loneliness, there'll still be doubt, there'll still be confusion. And so just things that you can look for that may be flags for you in your home that your child is struggling is if you see big swings in behavior or big swings in emotion. Younger kids, we'll see some regressions. They may start thumb sucking or bedwetting or having nightmares. Older kids may just become a little more clingy and want to be near you more and want to talk with you and be face to face with you more emotional and more crying. There'll be sleep issues and possibly some eating issues. You may see aggression and acting out and just irritability. Also, kids that are complaining a lot of just physical ailments. All of those can be a flag that they're just not doing so well. Thank you guys for being here. And